Welcome to this week's episode of Financially Speaking. As a local family-built firm, Buska Retirement Solutions, along with its affiliate companies Buska Wealth Management and Legacy Tax Solutions, offer one-stop retirement, tax, and legacy planning services to families nearing or already enjoying retirement. Sue Buska is president of Buska Retirement Solutions, a retirement planning company helping develop financial, Medicare, and health insurance strategies. Over a decade ago, she partnered with her son, Cole Bruner. Cole, an investment advisor representative that's held to a fiduciary duty, is president of Buska Wealth Management, a fee-based registered investment advisory firm providing financial planning and investment management for individuals and businesses. Legacy Tax Solutions offers personal and business tax planning and preparation services. Their enrolled agent, Carl Van Setters, is a military veteran with over 10 years of accounting experience and is committed to maximizing your tax credits wherever possible. Over the last several years, Sue and Cole have continued to grow their team of private wealth advisors to meet the increasing demand of retirees seeking guidance. In 2018, Ryan Connor began serving clients at their Eau Claire location. At their Wausau location, Logan Wooler became a part of the team in 2020. And in 2023, Sue's daughter Kaylee Berenson joined the firm. As a family-built firm with offices in Wausau and Eau Claire, their dedicated team of professionals have the experience to provide custom-tailored strategies to help you achieve your long-term financial goals. The next 30 minutes will be filled with retirement information presented by their team in a simple manner that you can understand. So stay tuned because Financially Speaking starts right now.
I thought it would be prudent for us to talk about something really popular: inflation.
Today I want to talk about why you need a succession plan for your business if you happen to be a business owner who is thinking about retirement.
Today, Kaylee and I are going to talk about financial literacy.
And now for our weekly question and answer segment.
Welcome back to Financially Speaking. Today I'm here with Cole and Ryan from Buska Retirement Solutions and Buska Wealth Management. We're going to go over some questions about planning for retirement, but before we do, if you would like to see your questions answered on a future segment, please email us at info@retirewithbuska.com. Ryan, Cole, thank you so much for joining me today.
Definitely.
I thought it would be prudent for us to talk about something really popular: inflation.
The people love it.
The people love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ryan, can you tell me a little bit about where does inflation stand today?
So as of April 2024, the annualized inflation rate is at 3.3% according to the CPI, which is one of the measurements that the Bureau of Labor Statistics use to measure inflation. In a broader sense, as far as where is inflation today, it's materially down from its highs in 2021 and especially in the summer of 2022. Now, long term, to kind of get to the more important question, long term, the Fed wants it to go to 2%. And it has been trending towards that, but in the first part of 2024, it has kind of stagnated out in that 3 to 3.3% neighborhood. The big things contributing to that are going to be, housing is really the big one, which really means rents and owner equivalence rents if we want to get real nerdy about it. But those are things that we are anticipating to continue to slow down. But we are in an uncertain financial environment right now. But that kind of gives folks a picture of where inflation stands right now. It's more so in kind of that 3.5% range, not necessarily the highs that we saw, up close to 10% at peak time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it has been steadily coming down. It's been kind of, like Ryan said, kind of flatlined over the last several months here in 2024, but the general trend over the last couple of years here has been consistent decreases in inflation rates. And so obviously the hope is that trajectory continues until we reach that 2% target.
So if there's going to be a little bit of hope in that inflation, how can you minimize the impact that inflation can have on your retirement?
Well, I think one of the things that you want to make sure of is that all of your investments are invested in things that are growing. We spent so much time where, money in savings accounts and banks was earning next to nothing essentially. And now for the first time in really over a decade, we can generate, 4 or 5% return on some of those cash assets. So take advantage of things like high yield savings accounts, money market accounts, short-term CDs, all of these different things. Use this as an opportunity to finally make a little bit of cash on your cash. Obviously, the market has been growing so far this year, and that has helped to, kind of counteract some of the inflation that people have been experiencing. But I think a lot of people are also looking at things saying, I still see high prices out there on food and, all these different things, household goods. And I think some people are under the assumption that the goal of the Fed is to get those prices to go down. And really, that's not the purpose of what the Fed is trying to do. I mean, the only way that we would see prices go down is if we hit some sort of, more significant recession or something along those lines. I think the general goal of what we're trying to accomplish, at least from the federal level, is bringing the rate of increase of goods and services down, from those 9+% rates to get them back to what they would consider a normal inflation rate, which would be around that 2% target.
So is that where we can expect inflation to go in the future, Ryan?
The Fed is probably going to try and get it there one way or another. The question is less about long-run inflation targets and more about what happens from an economic perspective to get there.
Right.
The Fed has been reticent because inflation has not necessarily gotten down quite to where they want it to cut interest rates. Now, right now, depending on who you talk to, folks are expecting maybe 1 or 2 interest rate cuts in 2024. Mm-hmm. But if the Fed doesn't get, inflation data that's going to lead them to do that, we might not see any cuts. So the question isn't so much necessarily, okay, do we get to 2%? I think the Fed has said we're going to get there one way or another if we have to continue to raise rates to get there, though that is not something they're necessarily considering now, something that they have talked about being open to.
Right.
It's whether, okay, does anything in the economy break in the meantime to get inflation down there? We don't have a lot of cases where we see inflation getting really high and then brought down without some type of recessionary activity. However, we also don't have a lot of data points of a recession being caused by a pandemic rather than something in the financial system. Yeah. So we are in a bit of uncharted territory. So saying, oh, this is exactly how this is going to go because of historic event X, Y, or Z, we just don't have a lot of very good and concrete historical examples that would necessarily apply right now. Inflation will continue to come down. It's just a matter of how aggressive the Fed has to be on interest rates and slowing the economy down to get us there.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to make some of the mistakes that they've made in the past where they've cut rates too soon and then inflation came surging back and they had to take rates even higher for a longer period of time. And of course, that's why, in the 80s time frame, we had really high interest rates on loans and mortgages, and you could make, 10% on a CD in the bank. But hopefully we don't have to go to that extreme, obviously, because that would potentially put us on that path towards a more significant recession if that were to occur. So it like Ryan said, we're in uncharted territory right now. And I think that, as we always say, impresses the importance of having a financial professional in your life that can help guide you through some of these more complicated questions and can help you to pivot within your plan if things do continue to evolve and change when it comes to, inflation and all of these different components that we've got to deal with in our lives, and make sure that we're prepared for whatever may come in the future.
Yeah. So speaking of working with a financial professional, which aspect of retirement might be the most vulnerable to the effects of inflation?
Well, I think your budget is probably one of the most victimized component of your financial life right now, just simply because we've seen the cost of everything rise. I mean, the cost of rent, the cost of food, the cost of household items, all of these different things have gone up. And granted, wages have gone up as well, which has been a contributing factor to why the Fed has tried to bring inflation down. But at the same time, maybe it hasn't kept pace historically with the rate of increase of goods and services and all of those things. So I would say your monthly budget is something that you really want to be focusing very closely on to see if there are any ways of any potential cuts that you could be making to free up additional cash for other areas, and make sure that you're still dedicating the necessary amount to your retirement savings and all of those types of things, because they're all equally important. And it kind of feels like a balancing act sometimes, where you're trying to keep all of these different things in the air and juggling all of them at the same time, but they really are important. And that obviously is where a financial professional can help kind of keep you on the right track when it comes to all of those things that you might not necessarily be thinking about in your everyday life.
This is something that Cole touched on as far as how wages have gone up. Well, if you're retired, that doesn't necessarily help you.
Right.
You might get a Social Security inflation cost of living adjustment, but if you have other income from, say, like a fixed pension, if inflation is high, the value of that pension is just deteriorating every single year.
Absolutely.
Now, it was probably planned to deteriorate in real terms at, say, 2%, but when you have inflation years of 9% and 6% and 4% in there, that the value of that's deteriorating faster. And so you need other parts of your retirement setup to kind of make up that difference. And that's where sitting down kind of with a professional can be really helpful, because what our goal ultimately is when we're putting these income plans together is to try and, if these various different problems occur over the course of your retirement, if it's 20, 30 years long, you're going to have recessions in there, you're going to have inflation spouts in there, you're going to have great growth years, bad growth years, all within those.
Yep.
Given all those different variables, how can we try and foolproof a plan so it can take all of those different hits over the course of time and still ultimately be successful? And I think the only way to really do that in an effective and comprehensive way is to actually work with a professional who understands all the different products, how those might be impacted by various different types of events, and can help explain them. Because not everyone's an expert in finance. And so sitting down with someone who can help you with that can be extremely valuable in making sure that your plan is as foolproof as it can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. When it comes to having a financial professional in your life, sometimes people are like, well, what is it going to cost? And all of these different things. And we always say that the right financial relationship should never feel like it's costing you money, because you should be getting tremendous value for that relationship. Of course, before you set out within that relationship, you should make sure that the compensation associated with that relationship has been clearly laid out and agreed to in writing before you're entering any financial advisor relationship as an individual client. But at the same time, they should be bringing tremendous value to your life in proactive planning, managing your investment portfolio. All of these different things should be all part of that relationship. And so at the end of the day, that should bring more value than it costs you money at the end of the day. That's the way we look at it anyways.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ryan Cole, for joining me today and talking about inflation.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching Financially Speaking. We'll be back with more right after this.
Close your eyes and picture retirement for a moment. What does your dream look like? Would your days be filled spending time with family and friends? Maybe you desire to volunteer or work a rewarding part-time job. Or do you envision traveling the world? Whatever your dream consists of, Buska Retirement Solutions can help you realize it. Call or go online to schedule a complimentary consultation today.
And now, our Financially Speaking weekly topic segment.
Welcome back to Financially Speaking. I'm Logan Waller from Buska Retirement Solutions and Buska Wealth Management. Today I want to talk about why you need a succession plan for your business if you happen to be a business owner who is thinking about retirement. Did you know that nearly 2/3 of family businesses lack a succession plan? That statistic comes from an article in TeamShares titled Succession Planning Statistics in 2024 Preserving a Legacy. Much like the fictional billionaire in Succession, some leaders avoid the issue because they love running their business and don't want to stop anytime soon. But one never knows what the future has in store. Even if you are happy, healthy, and determined to stay involved in your business for years to come, you might be glad you took the time to develop a thoughtful succession plan. Let's go back to a statistic for a moment. The TeamShares article estimates that only 30% of businesses ever find a buyer and sell successfully, which means 70% of businesses have no buyers and no plan for what to do next. What's more, only 12% of family businesses survive in the third generation, and only 3% make it to the fourth generation. If you want the business you've built to be a legacy that lasts, you'll need more than a sign that says, "and sons" above the door. A succession plan is important for your legacy and for the community your business serves. 50% of Americans work at small businesses, so a succession plan can help ensure that people keep their job after you pass the baton. When businesses are forced to close because there's no one to take over, it can be a loss for the community and the local economy. Have you ever had a favorite diner let its grill go cold, or a beloved store sell off anything that wasn't nailed down? If so, you know what it's like to lose a long-time business. The right succession plan can spare your community from having to go through this when you're ready to leave your business. Let's go through the steps you need to take to ensure a successful handoff of your business. First, you need to set a target. It might be wise to have a realistic retirement date in mind. An article by Personal titled "The 2 Most Common Succession Plan Process Mistakes" recommends starting your own succession plan 5 years before you plan to hand over the keys. Any effort to identify and groom a successor might take longer than you expect. Getting a head start gives you time to find the right candidate to take over the business. Whether you hand the business over to an adult child, a trusted longtime employee, or a newcomer, you'll want to take the time to develop them so that they're ready to step into your shoes. This can take time, so make sure you have enough time for it. The second mistake to avoid is not having a contingency plan. A key person could leave and the position may be vacant for some time. A contingency plan means you have a backup plan in case someone leaves. If you plan to sell your company, it could take several years to find a qualified buyer, begin the ownership transition, and finalize that transaction. To get the best possible price and terms, you may need to focus on improving the company's balance sheet before you put it on the market. Second, you need to stage your exit. Keeping your business in the family may be an easy decision if an adult child or another relative is capable, willing, and prepared to take over. If so, finding ways to reduce the value of the business on paper could help you gift ownership shares with fewer tax consequences. Otherwise, it may be possible to sell your business to co-owners, outsiders, or even your own employees. Closing and liquidating the assets could be the only valuable option for some businesses. Finally, business owners need to invest for retirement just like everybody else. Have you been investing for your golden years? Making annual retirement plan contributions with some of your profits can build wealth outside of your business and help you insulate your personal financial picture from risks associated with your business' distinct market. Building a separate investment portfolio might also provide greater flexibility during and after a transfer of ownership. I'm just about out of time for this segment. Whether you're a business owner concerned about retirement or an employee who is looking forward to clocking out for the last time, I'm here to help. You can contact our office today at retirewithbuska.com or call 715-355-4445. We'll be right back with more Financially Speaking after this.
And now our Financially Speaking weekly desk segment.
Welcome back to Financially Speaking. I'm Cole Bruner with Buska Wealth Management and Buska Retirement Solutions. And joining me today is my sister, Kaylee Berenson. Now, today, Kaylee and I are going to talk about financial literacy.
That's right, Cole. Financial literacy is an important topic, and best of all, it's fun for the whole family.
So first, Kaylee, why don't you explain what financial literacy is?
I'm happy to do that. According to the National Financial Educators Council, financial literacy is defined as possessing the financial knowledge, behaviors, system, team, and plan to confidently take effective action that best fulfills an individual's personal, family, and global community goals.
So in other words, financial literacy isn't just about knowing stuff. It's about having a strategy and having the right people in your corner.
That's right, Cole.
Sounds like a good definition to me. However, there are some other definitions out there. Investopedia defines financial literacy as the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. The meaning of financial literacy is the foundation of your relationship with money, and it is a lifelong journey of learning. The earlier you start, the better off you will be, because education is the key to success when it comes to your money.
That's a great definition too. Let's do one more. This one comes from the President's Advisory Council on Financial Literacy. The combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and ultimately behaviors that translate into sound financial decisions and appropriate use of financial services.
Sound financial decisions and appropriate use of financial services is what we're all about, isn't it, Kaylee?
Absolutely, Cole.
So now that we've covered what financial literacy is, let's dig into the data. How financially literate are we in the United States?
The NFEC administered a financial literacy test to 93,000 people of all ages across all 50 states. A failing score was under 70%.
So what was the average?
The average score was 67.3% for all ages.
So the average score was a failing one.
Yeah, it was. 42.7% of test takers of all ages failed. The numbers for people aged 15 to 18 were even worse, averaging a score of 64% and a failure rate of 51.3%.
Those are really surprising statistics, but the upside is that 15 to 18-year-olds have a lot of time to learn and catch up.
Exactly, and I think it's fair to say that people do catch up as they get older. The NFEC data shows that the average score was 78% among people who were 51 years of age or older.
Well, that's good to hear. It's important to be financially literate by the time you're 10, 15, or 20 years out from retirement. However, I have to say that 78% may be a passing score, but there's certainly room for improvement there.
There definitely is. Vince Shorb, the CEO of NFEC, said nationwide testing demonstrates that the average person lacks the basic financial knowledge he or she needs to make qualified financial decisions. Testing is just an indicator of content knowledge, but unlike other subject matter taught in school, financial literacy requires more than just understanding content. It requires learners to be able to adjust their daily financial behaviors and have enough knowledge to make confident financial decisions.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. However, if you're a parent, you don't have to leave financial education up to your child's school.
Exactly. And there are resources that you can use to educate your child so that they can make solid financial choices later in their life.
Investopedia has a financial literacy resource center that I think is pretty cool. Parents and educators can both use this. When you visit this resource center, you'll find a table full of downloadable materials. The table is broken down by grade, starting with kindergarten and ending with 5th grade. So everything is age appropriate.
That's right. And for example, the first resource is an infographic that helps young kids understand the difference between needs and wants.
The download comes with some instructions that explain how educators should set it up in the classroom. But if you're a parent, you can easily print out the flashcards and go through them with your kids.
Needs versus wants is such an important building block of financial literacy. It's amazing how some grown adults haven't learned this and make poor choices as a result.
It's never too early to start learning financial literacy.
What about 5th grade level? What should kids be learning by the time they reach that age?
Well, the 5th grade materials are all about jobs and careers. At this stage, kids start learning about how to write a resume and how to choose a career path as well.
That makes sense to me. And in 5th grade, kids are just a few years shy of being old enough to start their first jobs. If they've already learned these things, they'll be much more prepared.
In my opinion, having a job in high school can help teens become more financially literate also.
I agree, and especially if they have parents who provide guidance and show them what to do with those first few paychecks.
It's never too early to start putting 10% into a savings account either.
What about introducing your kids to your financial advisor? How old should they be when you make that introduction?
Good question. First Citizens Bank has an article on this subject, appropriately titled, "When Should Your Children Meet Your Advisor?"
The article argues that if you want your child to maintain a relationship with your financial advisor, you should make the introduction when your child is a preteen or a teen and not wait until the child is an adult. Making the introduction when your child is younger means that they'll be 80% more likely to continue that relationship.
So in other words, if you're working with a financial services professional and you're pleased with the help that you've received and want your child to receive the same service, make the introduction when they're young.
That's right, Cole. And this can allow your financial services professional to learn about your child's goals as well.
That's true. So what should you expect if you bring a child or teen to see your financial advisor?
These meetings are a good time to go over some of the age-appropriate financial topics we discussed earlier. You can also use these meetings as a time to let your child get involved with your family's charitable giving.
Oh, that's a nice idea. That would be a good thing to do with a 10 or 12-year-old, I think. Now, if your kids are close to college age, meetings with your financial advisor can focus on things like college savings and how you plan to help them financially as they pursue their higher education.
What about after college?
Well, Kaylee, that's another good time to schedule a meeting with a financial services professional. During that meeting, you, your child, and the advisor can help you to figure out how you're going to pay down your student loans and how you're going to budget for that new life.
Having a third party who can look at things objectively is so important. Parental advice can fall on deaf ears as kids get older. I think kids can sense when a parent has an agenda. And even if you don't have one, your kids may think you do. A financial services professional can look at things in a detached way, so they can make it easier for steering your kids in the right direction.
That's such a good point. Now, what about kids who are established adults already?
When you're reaching an age when it's time to start thinking about transferring assets to the next generation, having an established relationship between your kids and your financial advisor can be very helpful.
That's right. It can be very helpful for your financial advisor to have another point of contact with your family as you age, too. Your children can help ensure your financial strategy stays on track, even if you started to slow down.
Plus, if you and your children have sat down with a financial advisor and an estate planning attorney to talk about your assets, your children will be informed, and then the transfer of assets should go off without a hitch when that time comes.
That's right, and involving kids in that process can help leave a legacy of family harmony, which in my opinion is more valuable than most assets.
Most assets. If I had a 500-foot yacht.
And with that, we're out of time. To introduce your children to the world of financial literacy, contact our office today at retirewithbuska.com or call 715-355-4445. We'll be right back with more of Financially Speaking after this.
Thank you for tuning into this week's edition of Financially Speaking. We're glad you were able to join us today, and we hope you learned some useful retirement tips along the way.
On today's show, we covered a number of important topics, and hopefully we did so in a manner that was easy for you to understand. This is the same way that we communicate to our clients when we meet with them in person. Remember, with the help of the right financial services professional, you can create a quality retirement, and our team of advisors is here to help. Right now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your current retirement plan. So call us at 715-355-4445 or go to retirewithbuska.com to continue your retirement education, catch up on some previous episodes of our TV and radio shows, or to schedule that complimentary, no obligation consultation.
If you have any questions or comments about today's show, call us at 715-355-4445 or feel free to send us an email at info@retirewithbuska.com. Join us next week at the same time and the same place for another episode of Financially Speaking.